Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at this yourself. Now let's go briefly over how I went about solving this. So what I'm going to do is essentially create a new file here, and I'm going to comment in at the top here all the requirements that we said we wanted to have. First of all, I'm going to save it as a HTML file because it just makes it easier. So this one is tutorial.html. So I'm just going to save that here. So then we have our comments nicely faded because now the text editor understands that we're working with HTML. So I'm going to put in here the different steps I'm going to take to create this portfolio website. So instead of the first thing that I've been putting initially, create the basic HTML file and all that kind of stuff, hopefully by now you're getting into the habit of it. So I'm just going to leave that as it's almost a given that you need to do that first. Create the, save a HTML file, create the head and the body, and test it with a basic paragraph. So I'm just going to assume that you're doing that by now. So what we want to have in this tutorial web page, so we want to have a title, both in the tab and body, and then after that I want to create let's see, introduction header with explanatory paragraph, and then subheading that describes how to create a basic web page, including examples of bold, italic, and underlined. Let's go for that. Okay, so first of all, I am just going to do the basic test. So I'm going to put in a paragraph here, testing. This is just something that I like to do just to be sure that I'm doing the right thing here. So I'm just going to open up the file now, which is here, tutorial. Okay, fantastic. So the testing is working. Brilliant. So let's go for number one, title both in the tab and the body. So the title I'm just going to call HTML tutorial. And one thing to note is that for if you include a title, it does actually help with search engine optimization. So for example, it helps with, for example, if someone goes into a search engine and they search for HTML tutorial, your site will be more likely to appear for them. Okay, so now let's look into, we've added the title in the tab, so let's add it into the body as well as a H1 header. So here we go, H1, and we're just going to call this HTML tutorial. Underneath that, I'm going to put in a paragraph. Introductory header. Okay, so I'll add in the introductory header, add that as a H3, and let's just call this introduction. And then the paragraph below, just welcome to my basic tutorial on HTML. You will learn here how to create a basic web page. Okie dokie. And then under this I'm going to add another header, and this one is going to be called let's say how to create a web page. And then underneath this with a paragraph I'm just going to put, so remember we always want to make sure that we're having the opening tags and the closing tags. If you're seeing any issues in what you're writing, definitely check the tags and make sure you're opening and closing them as normal. So I'm not going to write out the whole tutorial here obviously, I'm just going to write in your first web page you will be able to add headers, paragraphs, and format the text. How exciting. Okay, so for headers, I'm going to make this bold because I want to include examples of bold, italic, and underlined. So I'm just going to have that as bold. Put this in between that. Paragraphs I'm going to put as italics. And then I'm going to underline how exciting. So as you may remember, we looked at this in the last practical. We searched how to include underlined formatting in HTML, and it said to use U. Fantastic. So I'm just going to save this now, refresh this, and we should have everything we need. Fantastic. So we have the title at the top, we have our title in the body, and then we have our introduction header, and we have how to create a web page. So there we go. That's the basics of having a tutorial. So what I recommend you do, which would be really exciting, is to actually fill this out a bit more. Actually include instructions on how to create the basic web page. And then what you could do, which would be really exciting. I mean, obviously the sites we're creating right now, they're all being, you can only use them from your desktop. That's because they're not being hosted anywhere at the moment. The files are being stored as what we call locally. So you can only access this file and you can only run it. But what you can do, which is really fun, is once you've created your HTML file, all you have to do is send this to a friend. You could just email it to them, for example. And then what they need to do is they then go to their laptop or their Mac, and they can basically download the HTML file, open it in their browser, and they will then be able to see it as well. So if you're feeling brave, then why not create this tutorial, send it to a friend or family member, and then they can try and create a web page themselves. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next lecture.